Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, the competitive Kill Team 40k podcast, focused on giving you the strategies and tactics to seize initiative every turning point. I'm your host Ryan, and I'm joined by a very special guest, not just one of the best players in the UK, but one of the best players in the world. In the 2023 ITC, he finished second in the UK, fourth globally, and first worldwide with novitiates. I'm joined by Bart Lewandowski. Bart, how are you doing today?
Hi Ryan, not too bad. Thank you for having me. And hello to everyone listening to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, and obviously it's a good time to get you on because effectively we've had a balanced data slate release recently. We've had a whole new, couple new teams been injected into the meta. So we're going to try and rank the teams, I think, and see where they sit at the end of it. And it's useful to get a second opinion. But for anyone who isn't or hasn't heard of you before and is listening to the show, could you maybe just do a quick introduction, tell them who you are, and maybe why you play Kill Team?
Yeah, of course. Thanks a lot. So my name is Bart. I come from Poland. I live in London. This is where I play Kill Team mostly. The reason why I play Kill Team is because I'm a competitive nerd. I used to play Magic the Gathering, and these days I play Kill Team. It was supposed to be a less competitive game, but for me at least, but this is what we ended up with. So here we are.
One of the major achievements that I think that I have left off from the initial introduction is actually a sort of a team achievement, right? So could you maybe tell me a little bit about the old ones?
Yeah, so the old ones are a London-based team focused on Kill Team, which has been created by myself, Serkan, and Guy Barton after one of the events in London where we thought we should create some of competition to your team and LWG, and we thought, let's start a new team, and then we grew up to 6 players right now. So there's myself, Guy, and Dan Barton, Serkan, Dave, and Nick. And shout out to all of my teammates. We managed to get to number 1 team place in 2023 ITC season for Kill Team. So I think it's a good achievement for us. And that will be the bit about the old ones.
It is an absolutely amazing achievement, and the team has so many good players, right? So for anyone that was probably watching my stream, was it last weekend, the weekend before? Can't remember, dates all blur together, but they watched me get smashed by Serkan with his Fellgore, and obviously they saw me have a very, very close game against Guy with the Wormblade, and it came down to a single point. So these are, like, in my opinion, the top players in the UK, and I'm hoping that we're going to see quite a few of them make it out to the World Champs this year, because I think that'd be an awesome thing for us to be able to show the rest of the world what the British community can do, and the strength of it, and then also get a few more people a bit more airtime to let them be recognised globally for where they sit within the community. And other plans we have this year is also to attend the WTC with them. So there's a whole bunch of really cool stuff that's on the horizon. So that would be a very strong team, I think, going into it. But the focus of... Sorry, you go ahead,
Yeah. I think it would be a great thing to get more players to World Championship. Like, funnily enough, Dan Barton actually qualified last year. It was just that he was a tad too young to participate in last year's event, but this year I think, I don't want to say I'm sure, but I think he will be going there. So hopefully we'll manage to add a few more players to the ranks of all those representing GB. By the way, I watched that game of yours with Serkan. It was a great poison grenade from Toxform.
Yeah. 5 ups, 3 in a row. That's the way to do it. And I was like, God damn, that's really effective. Yeah, he absolutely nailed it. But to be fair, like, I think that game was set not just from that. I think his positioning across the board was excellent, just to continually threat range the objectives really well. And I couldn't really push the goats off the objectives without being in a charge situation where I get tangled up. So I think he played it exactly the way he needed to play it, which is really good. But you're absolutely right on the roster front for this year's World Championships, because 2 golden tickets were handed out at that Nottingham tournament. So Chris Coppola, who people might have heard of from the last World Championships, went out to support the UK as part of the team out there, and he's going again. And also Matt Surridge is another guy who's an amazing player, a absolute gentleman, and is very welcome as well. So myself, Dan, Matt, and Chris hopefully are the first four, but there is a lot more tickets on the way. I'm just confirming dates and stuff and locking it in, but hopefully my tournament on the 7th and 8th of September will have not one but 2 golden tickets. I'm hoping for it to be 128 players. So if we can get 128 players, it'll be funded. Like, I'll be able to get people out there and pay for it. If we get less than 128 players, it might be partially funded. If we get less than 60 players, I'll be not making money. So let's not worry about that too much.
I think it will be a massive event, and just like the one last year. Like, you kept shouting out about that event for a very long time, and ultimately it was a great event. We had a ton of fun. And I played with Kommandos, so I had even more fun than most other players. So I think it will be a guaranteed success, the one in September. So I'm pleased to hear that you're putting together another massive event together.
And we'll see what happens, because I'm hoping we'll get loads of people from the international community come over as well, because funded places, 128 players, it should be great for your ITC points, great for the competitive vibes, and because it's a 2-day event, there'll be a big social in the evening, so we'll hopefully be able to get all the communities together as we did last time and have some real good fun. So without further ado, though, because you have mentioned Commandos, so we do need to get into the tier list, because obviously the big golden, the big green boys need to get placed somewhere between S and D, and it's probably going to be closer to S than it is D. But I think we'll just get straight into it, because there's so many teams, and even if we spend 2 minutes on a team, we'll probably be here for a long old time. So I think Kommandos is probably the good place to start, because you have a lot of experience with Kommandos. You did a really good performance with them last season. So what's your thoughts on Kommandos post balanced data slate? Where do you think they sit? And do you think they've been hit hard by it, or not as much as people might think?
So I think, so the nerfs that are definitely significant, and at least in my opinion, and they will impact the win rate of Kommandos, and I'd say the easiness of leading that team. However, I still think that the team does what it used to do, or what they want to do, which is acting as a durable horde, trying to play the objectives, and they still do that in many aspects. And people say, oh yeah, but you can take a critical now and you cannot just scratch it. Yeah, that is true, and in some cases you'll die thanks to that, because of that. But at the same time, I still think that they're a very strong team, and one that will prove to be difficult for many opponents. And for that reason, I still believe they're sitting, or should sit, somewhere in the S tier.
Okay, that's interesting. So I think, for me, my only thoughts on them is, for a lot of their matchups, there is now an element of a dice game. Whereas before, I think they've always had unreliable melee. Now the 2 EP choppers are very unreliable, but I think they have routes around that, right? They can take the sledgehammers, they can take other.
Oh yeah. We can just, on many maps, people say, oh yeah, but choppers are ineffective right now. Yeah, but this means that you can drop Breacher Boy, so you have one less operative that needs a chopper, and then you take 2 sledgehammers plus dynamite, or you take 2 sledgehammers plus some climbing ropes and a sticky bomb. So I think it should still work. I've had games which I managed to win with Kommandos, not performing a single fight action throughout the game myself. So just because they're still not really
score
reliable. Early. So you score early, you shoot to kill wherever the opponent gives you a chance to shoot at them, and you don't really need to, or charge and be very loud with your choppers. What I found quite effective is trying to take the points, then when an opponent tries to take them back, use Justice Scratch defensively. Sometimes, especially into elites, when they charge you and they want to bash your orc into the ground, if you use Justice Scratch correctly, sometimes you'll be able to punish them twice, which means that your follow-up orc will be able to finish off the elite operative. But all things considered, I think they're still in S tier, and I personally don't think that we need to actually knock them down to the ground and see them in the deep sea. But yeah, they're still a very strong team, definitely.
So the interesting thing for me is the choice of buffs and nerfs here. So I personally think, and I sort of said this the other day when I was talking about the balance changes, that the change to just a scratch will affect the casual players far more than it's going to affect the competitive players. Because I think the true strength of Commandos is kind of what you alluded to already, right? It's the ability to get onto objectives early, contest objectives, and deny your opponent the ability to score. So what I would have liked to have seen personally is, rather than change just a scratch, and we can maybe keep that change, but I think taking Shush away from turn one would massively help in ITD, because they have such board presence in ITD, it's insane. And then the forward deploy wouldn't be able to start on objectives. I think the combination of those two things, because if you let the forward deploy not start on objectives, they'll just shush them onto an objective turn one anyway. So it doesn't change anything. But the combination of those two would really slow down, I think, the early scoring potential of Commandos, and also stop them from just contesting all the objectives that they can very, very early on, and really hurt them in ITD, I think, where they are currently very, very strong. And if you did that, you could probably keep just a scratch the way it was. But maybe that's just me. I think the rest of the changes, as we've covered, I don't think they're that impactful. I think they probably are now towards the bottom of S tier. We'll see what other teams arrive later. But I still think they're going to be, I think, A or S tier. I think they're still going to be at the top. They're going to be doing well. A lot of their damage remains the same, and they're just taking different equipment now. So I think that's kind of I think we both agree where they sit, right? So,
yeah, I think so. And if we are to move on, if I may suggest something to keep the interest of the listeners or on YouTube viewers, what do you think about Void Dancers right now?
Oh, Void Dancers. That is a good question. So I think there's a lot of salt, right, about the changes to Void Dancers, particularly the fact that they now have to pay for Traverse. Weirdly, I kind of like that change in a sense that it makes barricades matter, and it's always a weird thing when you're playing Void Dancers and you just sit there and go, yeah, I'm just going to put these barricades down, but actually it's just for me, not for you. So
Ryan, you like that change because you haven't spent tens of hours painting the diamond pattern like so many other players, including myself, and that's why. Oh yeah, that change makes sense. I personally hate it, but at least now I can look at my Void Dancers on the shelf, perfectly lit, and I can enjoy them this way.
But I guess the question is is it going to be too much for them? And I think potentially it will be. I was thinking about how much movement reduction they've received, and before, obviously, their threat range is just like always 9 inches, right? So they're just charging wherever they want to go and ending within 1 inch. Whereas now, if they pay the 2 up, 2 down, it's going to be like a 5-inch threat range, and that is significantly less. So is it too much? Probably. I think they're now going to sit like B-, B tier. Like, okay. I don't think they're bad. Like, I still think they're going to be able to do stuff. I still think they've got some really strong ploys, but I don't think they're going to be as good as they once were.
So I would say B-, and the reason for that is the nerf to fly ability is only one thing. We also need to consider all the other teams that appeared in the meta and how the meta is shaped as a whole. And I don't really think that they have too many matchups which they would love to play these days. And like with, let's say, the comeback of Pathfinders. I know it's not the worst matchup, but it's not the easiest either. You still have Kommandos. You have Fellgore. You have other teams which can prove to be problematic for them from melee perspective. Or even the police might not be the easiest matchup with how they play out, with shotguns and reroll prevention, the powerful flashlight equipment. So there's that. But yeah, this is like all things considered, combining the impact of the nerfs and the surroundings of the metagame, I think I rate them quite low these days.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with the teams that I think we're going to see at the top. I don't think is going to favour them, if that makes sense. And you mentioned like the space cops, the RBTs. Like you have to then tech into taking the brutal weapons, and then just like literally hope your opponent doesn't roll a 6. Is your only like way to be able to like get around it. And even then, they still hit you for 4 damage. So you're still taking damage every time you go and fight those guys. So I agree with you. And I think some of the teams that we're going to see rising towards the top of the meta are particularly bad for Void Dancers. So I think B- is probably fair. I think they can still play well, and I think good players will still do well with them. But I think you're more likely now to hit into a matchup that you can't solve, where before you could probably use your movement to get around it, whereas now you're probably not going to be able to achieve that. So maybe... And I think the easiest way to give them a little kickback would just be removing the having to pay for traverse. I think that seems. I mean, it's thematic, right? That they could do that, and probably an unnecessary thing to them. Even though I like it as a competitive player because I can use barricades in a sneaky way. All right, so let's press on.
Barricades are broken.
Barricades are broken. Bam, barricades. Barricades belong in D tier. I think it's worth touching on another team that has received some love recently, the Warpcoven. So I've actually played some games with Warpcoven recently. Have you played any games at all with the new team?
So I haven't played them since they got the buffs or maybe not even the buffs, the redesign of the rules. But I had a conversation with one of my teammates recently, and we thought that at least prior to the release of Nightmare, I would rate them quite high when it comes to the league teams. We'll obviously like see how we consider them in comparison to the new elite team, but yeah, like you put them in B, and I think this is where they should sit. I would say around mid B.
Yeah. So I played a game with them the other day. They are better. They are definitely better than they were before. I love the extra wound on the Zangles. I think it's great. It's probably their most impactful change, which is a weird thing, but it is. And they're still fundamentally they're a melee team because the sorcerer's shooting is just unreliable and like I don't know why, but it either seems to do absolutely nothing or just explode stuff, and I can't really grasp why, but just the profiles. They are skewed. I think they're significantly better on ITD, which is a weird one, but because that shooting, as I said, it's all blast or torrent or whatever.
Yeah, and is it that the crit knockdown on the equipment for sorcerers now works every single turning point?
Yes, that is also huge, which particularly in melee.
So yeah, between that and the +1 wound on Zangos, they actually got quite a chunky buff when it comes to the wound count across the whole team.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
But as you sort of touched on, I still think they have issues with like number of activations is obviously a problem. You'll probably want to run more Zangles than you ever have done before. So you're probably going like 3 sorcerers, 6 Zangles, something like that, which is nice. But I don't know how good it's going to be when you start going against teams that are very good at potentially melee. And there's some teams that have just been released that we might want to talk about that are particularly good at melee. And the sorcerers being 4 attacks, if you start reducing attack dice from that sort of pool, suddenly your melee monsters become not very good at all, and that becomes really scary for you. So they're good. I think B is a fair place for them. They're definitely better than what they were. I think you can now do stuff with them, but they still have their limits. And I think middle of the pack is probably fair.
Okay. I have a suggestion for a very controversial placement, by the way.
Okay.
And I'm sure that's going to trigger plenty of comments on YouTube. And my controversial statement is Hand of the Archon is one of the 4 worst teams in the game. What do you think about that?
So I also agree with this. I will put them in C tier, because and so
Because you really want those comments just to keep the publicity
because
up.
I love the hate. I love the hate, obviously. And I should say that this is just opinion, guys. Like, I know there's some very good players out there running Hand of the Archon that are doing well with them. This is not talking about player skill. It's talking about the team's potential.
And specifically what we think about them. Maybe we don't have that Hand of the Archon, Emo Drukari, Juggernaut in our local community. And that's why we rate them so low.
But I guess the main issue I have with them is the way fleet works is it's better, but they're having to spend for their movement every turn, so it's a constant CP tax to do the things that elves normally do, and B, like, if the ball doesn't get rolling, then it never does, and so if you haven't achieved kills, like you need your opponent to misplay turn one to give you some early kills, to get the pain tokens, to then get you into a position turning point 2 where you can steamroll them. And they do feel like one of those teams where either you win 24-5 or you lose 5-24. You know what I mean? Like it's they're really weird in the way their mechanic works. But what thoughts do you have on them?
Yeah, so I think that generally speaking, this team hasn't got enough APL to do what they need to do to get the ball rolling. This is exactly what you mentioned, which brings them down to a team which has to, I'd say they have to overextend to get the ball rolling. But if you're facing a good opponent that can out-activate you or that can counterplay your overextension, which is in a way forced by the nature of this team, then it's going to be pretty hard. So yes, they do have good killing potential. Yes, they have that fancy grenade trick, which is also great and can catch some players off guard. But all things considered, like 9 models with 2 APL and no comms, right?
Yeah, and that's it. And they're quite fragile. I know they have a 6-up Feel No Pain, but I don't know what it is, but whenever I have a 6-up Feel No Pain, I don't have a Feel No Pain. It never works for me. 5-up seems to give me, though, 50% increase. I don't understand the difference, but it is insane. So they're not that durable. You don't have enough activations to be able to sort of wait out a lot of teams. I know you can versus elites, but a lot of teams you can't. So as you say, you end up not securing a kill, or you get greedy turning point 1, get the kill, but then the model's exposed. So that becomes a late turning point 1 kill for your opponent, and you're in exactly the same place that you were always in. So I completely agree with you.
And sometimes it's just a numbers game, right? Even if you have like 9 models, 8 of which will be very killy, if your opponent has more models, they can play the mission slightly better than you, and because you're on 2 APL, in most cases, what you'll do, you'll charge and kill and then be killed, or you'll move and shoot and kill and then be killed, which means that it's hard for you to come up with the upper hand after the trade. And if you get to the attrition game, it's not great. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to try and pick a team that I think is in A tier, and I'll see if you agree. I'm going to go with Elucidan Starstriders. I think are A tier, probably right at the bottom of A tier, but I think they're in there. And I'll sort of explain my logic for this. Is I think they have one of the best toolkits in the game, but they just have some particularly bad matchups. So like against a lot of teams, they are fantastic, and I think they also play far better when you have like quick rounds. Like the quicker the games are, the more likely you are to make your opponent to make a mistake, right? So if you're playing like a 2 hour, 3 hour round, they don't perform as well because your opponent has longer to figure out where the mistakes are. But when you're playing quick rounds, they've got a really good toolkit, and they're fantastic. They've got durability boosts, they've got good lethality, and they play the mission really well as it currently stands. I think they're A tier. I do think, however, they suck into Kommandos. I think they suck into Galapox, probably
Fellgore.
Fellgore. Yeah, definitely suck up
So
to
yeah, so
Fellgore.
as much as I can like agree with, let's say, top of B plus, bottom of A,
Mm,
the way I look at them is that, as you put it, like they will struggle against certain teams that, at least in my opinion, will see them at the very top. And yeah, if we put them in A, like looking at A tier, like I'd say we're looking at a tier where we have a spread of teams that are very good, and depending on how well those teams go into the absolute best teams in the game, will put them in either top A or bottom A, or maybe even B plus. So this is how I see it. Then for
mm.
that reason, I think yes, they're definitely capable. They probably have a higher skill ceiling than many other teams, just because of how many tricks you have, how many potential alpha strikes or turning point to alpha strikes you have, and at the same time how fragile you are to certain punchbacks. Like someone just going with a counter punch against you. Then yeah. But yeah, all things considered, I would place them somewhere between like bottom A, top of B plus. So yeah, like
I think what we'll do
I
is
think.
we'll see how the rest of this tier fills
Oh yeah,
out,
of
and it might be
course.
that they drop down because generically, like the way I look at it, like the way their assets work means that they have in some of their like AP2 weapons or their AP2 weapon, they have durability because so many different people can call it in. It's really hard to actually remove it without killing lots of people. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Pro
and
tip for today: don't try to shoot the starship, shooting down the lasers. That's not gonna
yeah,
work.
you can't put a grudge on a starship. So
That's
yeah,
sad.
yeah, they're either going to be top of B plus or bottom of A, and I guess we'll leave them there for now, and then we'll see what falls out. All right, what team do you want to cover off next?
um, Maybe let's look at one of your favorites. Let's look at Exaction.
Oh, okay. So I think Exaction needed or could have done with a buff in the last balanced data slate. Um, I was actually pretty amazed that they didn't receive one. I don't really know why. I think maybe it was just because that I guess they're doing okay, but I've never seen Exaction win much. I'm trying to think if they've won any
Well,
tournaments.
flashlights are clearly broken, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That is the best thing, right? The best thing is that you can annoy your opponent with flashlights. So I think they're going to be probably in B minus.
Yeah, so I'd say I would probably agree. However, I would place them over the Void Dancers. I think they should
That's
be.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think that they should be a bit more effective than Void Dancers these days. And the way I look at Exaction Squad, they will be quite the opposite of Elucidan Starstriders in a way, and that way is that they will be uh, quite average and good in the hands of a good player. However, they will have certain matchups where they will prove to be really good. Like I think, like when I last played against them versus Mikkel, who's one of the
Mm.
better players in London, he said, "Oh, I just really like to play with Exaction Squad into both Kommandos and Fellgore." And that's an unusual thing to say, that like considering that both these teams are quite strong, and you're looking at Exaction, who, as we put it right now, that they will like end up in probably the bottom half somewhere. So yeah, there's that. But all things considered, I think that they still lack like a long range threat outside of that sniper rifle. And what I love about Exaction Squad is that um, when you play with those shield guys, you can safely assume that your opponent will be scared to charge you, but because they might not kill you. What I hate about the Exaction Squad is that you cannot really assume that you're gonna kill your opponent's operative with a shield guy,
Yeah.
because it's a bit of a lottery. So yeah, there's that.
And it's a way of describing it in the past is they're complete wild cards. And so I guess my issue with them is I found this when I went to LVO, is I played Fellgore and I managed to do really well in the first 2 turning points. I think I went 4-1 and then 4-2 against my Fellgore opponent. And then just on turning point 3, every charge, like it was just that wild card didn't come up. And every time I fought, I lost all of my guys. And so I think he made like 7 charges, killed 7 dudes on turning point 3, and it was one of those things where you just go, oh well, I guess there's nothing you can do. It is a dice game at that point because it's all on 4s. You can get a reroll, but it's still not that reliable. And particularly with the brutal guys, you need the crits and that sort of stuff. So I guess for me, what the team needs, in my opinion, is probably like a 2-inch combat support bubble. Because they're supposed to work in pairs. It's thematic that cops work together. And therefore, if friendlies are in 2 inches of them, they could get a combat support. Because then they're having to play around the risk of blast versus the benefit of melee and that sort of thing, right? It just makes it a bit more interesting for them. And it also works with their phospholumens, so it becomes thematic. They want to stick close to each other and do buddy cop stuff. And that might be a way around it. But
or just give them a team-wide 2 inches engagement range and see the community cry.
Maybe not that. Maybe not that, because that would be too strong.
I want to stay outside of combat. No,
you're always in combat, and everyone has manacles.
By the way, I can shoot into combat.
So I think that's why, like for me, I think that would be friendlies within 2 inches count as adding combat support bonus. I think would be useful. Maybe there's some sort of rules exploit I haven't thought about why it would completely break the team, but it would be a way.
And by the way, to all the listeners, that was a joke. Like I'm here to do a jester of some sort. So yeah,
we don't actually want them to have a 2-inch engagement range, please. God no. All right, so I'm happy to sit there. It's interesting. I would say that I think maybe Void Dancers sit above them for most matchups, because I do think they have some bad ones still, but I'm happy for them to be in B-, and we can finesse.
Yeah, we can shuffle that around later on, or like just feel free to just bump Void Dancers above them. After all, it's your podcast.
We'll see what happens, and we'll see what moves around. All right, so let's go on to a team that is, I guess, one of your favourites actually, and they did receive some love, and I think it's probably going to be one that maybe people are tracking a little bit less, but I think are pretty good right now. Let's talk about the Hearthkyn Salvagers. Where do you think they sit?
So I think, So thanks for helping with that.
I just threw them straight in.
Yeah. I think this is more or less where they should sit. I think the buff was really beneficial, and in a way, I see even before the buff, I somehow managed to take them to an event without too many expectations, and went 4-0, and it was like, yeah, it felt great. And then I saw, oh, we got a buff. Oh, we got another one. And like, all things considered, looking at this team, I think that most players underestimate the power of the locator buff. That model, the either of the abilities that he has right now would put them into the 10 models that you're bringing to the game, just because of that ability. And now he has 2 of them, and at least for me, this operative has now become one of the must-haves or must-takes in almost every single game. And between the option to put a fringe bubble of no obscurity, and the fact that you just have an absolute authority against Shush or Into the Breach or Drawn to the Hum TP1, just because this is extremely powerful. And on top of that, you say, oh, you cannot do recon dash in scouting, which often puts the opponent off taking recon, so number 3 option in the scouting phase, which allows you to make a better prediction of what they will take, and then force them to start turning point 1. So like on so many levels, that operative is better than it used to be. I think this was a huge buff, and overall team the team got like a lot of, and yeah, I like them a lot quite these days.
And I think you touched on it there. Like that locator buff, it is like if you ask people what's one of the strongest things that Inquisition can do, it's I can turn off your your pre-game movement against Vet Guard or something like that. And
For
there's
a
a guy
command
here
point,
that
and this
costs
guy does that for free.
it doesn't cost them anything. He's like it is an absolute auto include. He is so good for that. And the additional now ability to get long range ignore obscuring for those other guns that they have on the team is fantastic. So I guess the one downside of this team is they're a shooting team that like specializes in close range shooting, but they're not that fast. So like, that's a weird
definitely
thing.
Deserve a plasma knife into your knee for that statement.
There's gonna be some grudges held against me, but like,
I'll put 5 of them on your spaceship.
So yeah, 4's balanced isn't the most reliable profile, but it's fine, right? Like, but when they get close to you, they punch hard, right? And that's I guess the interesting thing with this team is how quickly they can punch up, particularly like the grenade dude when he's hitting on 2s, like turning normals into crits and all that sort of crazy stuff. So I completely agree with you. I think they're probably top of A tier, or near the top if nothing else, because
yeah, I probably
really
have
good
like
enough.
1 or 2 teams that will sit above them, like that.
Yeah.
At least like when I think about that, but I would keep them in the A tier, and I think they're extremely powerful right now. And yeah, on one hand you say, oh yeah, 4-up ballistic skill is not that powerful. On the other hand, if you combine that with proximate firepower, if you plan correctly with your attack token and grudge tokens, then all of a sudden it just stacks up. And
Yeah.
even
Yeah, sure.
like the base gunner with the rotor cannon, 6 dice hitting on 4s with ceaseless. If you add balance from the attack token and the grudge token on top of that, you have really good chances of actually taking an operative out of the board.
Certainly, people die very, very quickly. Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
too much
Shall we
more
go to the
say on
next
that
one?
team. Yeah, let's do next team. So, do you have a preference on what we do next? If not, what suggestion?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your opinion about Blooded.
Okay. Yeah. I think Blooded are in a great place. I think they are better than I think what a lot of people probably think they are. And I think so there's a few bits here with them, right? So they're a pretty effective melee team. They have a lot of bodies. They have a lot of activations. They have access to some APT weapons. Seek and Destroy now is far better than it used to be. Their attack ops, faction attack ops, are unfortunately garbage, but luckily the other ones, Seek and Destroy, are much better.
Arguably, you don't need tac ops, like faction tac ops, if you have Seek and Destroy.
Yeah, agreed. Because particularly for a melee team, because Rob and Ransack route is so accessible to you.
Yeah. I think they should plug that hole in B+ that we have right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they are, and they might sneak higher. I think this is like between Elucidan and Blooded. I don't think the gap's much at all. And maybe into the broader field, Blooded might be better, particularly into who's around the corner right now. Like, and we'll talk about some of the big nasties that are in the meta. And I think Blooded can do quite well into them. But I agree. I think they're definitely up there in B+ or A. But they are a pretty solid team right now, I think.
Yeah, they might struggle on Beta Decima a bit if this is what you're playing on, and this has to be considered. Like looking back at that event that we had at Dark Sphere last month, where we play only Beta Decima, and then I would say like probably don't consider Blooded for that one if you really want to win the event. But otherwise, they're decent and open. They're quite good on Into the Dark. They have high threat saturation. I think B+, maybe even A. This is where they should sit.
And I think so. Interestingly, I've just been designing new Beta Decima maps because I think the community feedback is broadly that they're less fun to play on than the other board types. and I'm wondering if just by moving where the objectives are and that sort of stuff, but keeping the terrain rules, if it's salvageable, to get people playing it more and enjoying it. And in that case, if you were to look at like a TPT version of Beta Decima, I think they'll do really well. So it's an interesting one. I think they are probably we'll leave them there for now, top of B plus. But yeah, I could see them slipping into A based on what else could be available. But that's probably a good place for them to sit.
Okay. So I have a question for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
What is another team that deserves to be in the bottom four?
In the bottom four,
Yeah.
I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying it.
Let's keep those comments coming.
But this is just my opinion, and I know that like some metas are better than others and are different than others, and people play differently. But it is my honest opinion that Kroot still sit bottom of the meta. And I think they're probably better than Hand of the Archon. Is that a true statement? Yeah, I think they're better than Hand of the Archon. But I don't think they're...
You really want those negative comments.
Yeah, like everyone is angry right now. All the Jakari players hate me. The Kroot players hate me. It's not personal. I want the Kroot to have buffs, guys. This is what I'm trying to say. But maybe there's people who are playing against.
Would you say that the GA1 on the Hounds is a buff or a nerf, or like a side buff or side nerf?
So my opinion on it is it's a side grade that has, I think, spec'd them more into their playstyle than they were before, which is not helpful. So this is a team that just wants to go, can I max all my VP in the first 2 turning points and then just try and deny you some? Like, that's it. Like, that's their whole game plan is, can I just get like as much VP as I can, turning point 1 and 2, and hope that you don't get one. Like, you drop a primary somewhere.
Yeah, but the problem with them is that they do that, and they do that pretty consistently, and then they die. And,
they do.
And then your opponent not only catches up on their points and their plan for the mission, but if your plan is to go 4-2, 4-2, you cannot go 1-4, 0-4 in the next 2 turning points, because ultimately they will win. Yeah. So this. I think this is the biggest problem with Kroot. I agree with you that they should sit within the bottom bracket, top 4 or bottom 4, I should say, teams in the game. And yeah, I just simply don't like the way those rules changes or like side grades push them even more into their playstyle, and yeah, this doesn't address the issue. It just pushes them further down the same path, and it's not really working, I'd say.
I would have liked it to have been an optional GAT, or you bound it so that they can be activated with another model within 3 inches of them. I think that would be a really interesting change for the team, because the Hounds are good, but now you're using them to go to 12 activations to better position turning point 1, but then turning point 2 and 3, you're a bit lackluster. You know, there isn't really much, like, there's not much double kill potential, so there's a high chance that you just die, as you said. And yeah. I think you're playing like this weird game where you're just trying to hold on as long as you can. And so yeah, I think they're sitting at C tier until they get maybe a bit more killing potential, which I know they have got some more attacks on their melee guys, but you're still only 8 wounds in melee. So you're still pretty fragile against anyone who fights first, anyone who reduces your weapon skill, ballistic skill, and anyone who has like a just a scratch or anything like that. They're going to mess you up. So I think top of C for now is probably where they sit. Should we try and fill the gap with an S tier team then?
The gap with an S tier team. Okay, I'll have a suggestion for the S tier. And it's probably going to come as an obvious one, and I'm going to say the goats, the nasty animals of this game. Yeah, I think Fellgore should sit in the S tier. I think, as much as the war paint nerf was definitely a significant one, I think that the other nerf that they got, the gong not working on frenzy. I think this should be spread across all the operative specific abilities that they have. Like when they're angry, they should just be angry and not be able to do anything else. I think the biggest problem with them is that they still have 10 wounds, decent melee, and live twice.
Yeah.
And and for many teams, this is just too much. And sometimes this game is all about the numbers that you can bring to the table. And if you can win so many games that come down to attrition war just because you live twice, this is still powerful. And in a way, there's certain similarities between them and Kommandos. I'm not talking only about the 10 wounds. It's about the survivability and the fact that they can withstand so much. Both teams do that in a slightly different way, but this is ultimately what makes them so special. What do you think about that?
I agree, and I was trying to figure out like how do you solve this team, right? Like how do you make them slightly more balanced in the wider meta, because you don't want to hit them too hard, but equally I think their core mechanics is really difficult to play around, because action efficiency in this game is difficult enough as is, and particularly if you're fighting like another 2 APL team, they simply don't have the output or the double fight potential, double sheet potential to secure the kills, and so you just have goats that are just hanging around, and albeit now they are less contesting for objectives, that they still contest objectives.
Yeah, I think they shouldn't. I think this was an unnecessary buff that they received in the previous balance patch. I think they should still be like they should still count as 0 APL while frenzied.
Yeah, I think so. I have two suggestions where I think people, and I've been interested to know what the community's thoughts are on this. So the first one I think is the simplest. I think they are just too action efficient and they have too many bodies. So dropping them down to 9 bodies, I think would make it interesting, because now the Fellgore player has an interesting choice in which operatives they take. What people do you want to have on your roster, and how are they going to sort of operate? And maybe you drop someone, or you might mix up your play style for different matchups or whatever. The other option is there a way that you only get frenzied if you're on engage or something like that? So if you're on conceal, you don't frenzy, you just die. Because I feel like a lot of teams can invest a lot into trying to kill a goat that's on conceal. They don't die, and then suddenly it's all over. And when they have the double retains for being in cover and for having already activated, they are so durable.
It's ultimately it's about the durability, the survivability that they have, and I agree with that with some approach that would reduce that in one aspect or the other. You could consider giving them less wounds, taking away the operative. You could consider allowing the opponent to keep bashing them in melee when they put them on frenzy in their own activation. As in, like, you charge them and let's say you have a melee killing monster, and you just keep bashing them into the ground until they're not frenzied anymore. So we could consider that as well. But as of now, at the very minimum, I'd say if you're frenzied, you're not controlling objectives. Maybe not even scoring tac ops, but then like that might be a step too far, because it would still make sense for them to score like seek and destroy like while frenzied.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why, like, I think the easiest, and this is like when you look at balance changes, it's like, what's the most simple thing you could do to have like the most effect and try and solve a problem? I genuinely think reducing them to 9 is the way forward, because against other mid-range teams, like always like having the same number of activations as say novitiates. Like, I don't really know what novitiates do. Like, I know novitiates have the ability to have access to crits and that sort of stuff. But like for a lot of those teams, like let's say Kazakin, whatever, you kill one, but you're now either exposed or you haven't actually killed them, and now it's an initiative gamble. Do they win initiative? Do they not? Because the goat's still there, and then if they do, what your first activation is just killing the goat that you killed last turn. Like, is that an effective use of your your initiative gamble, and bear in mind there's probably now 4 goats that are within threat range of various things. So
Yeah, and on one hand, you don't want to do that because you already killed them, and oh yeah, if they activate that model, it will die by the end of its activation. On the other hand, you often have to, because if you don't, before they die, they will take an operative with them. So it's like, it's very often it puts you, killing a goat puts you in a bad spot because you invested some resource into killing that goat. You might have exposed another operative while doing so, and now you have to kill it again, potentially exposing another operative to be killed by another goat. It's just like it just doesn't work the way it should work. So yeah, but yeah, all things
and
considered, I think they should sit in S tier.
yeah, I was about to say, because they can also then just yeet goats into the guys that have moved forwards, sit on the objectives, and just bung you up, right? Like the best goat players know when to fight and when not to fight, and I think that's the thing that is the skill differential between Fellgore players is knowing exactly when you want to just hide in melee and not try and roll any dice, and when you need to go, actually, I want to kill this guy right now, and
Yeah,
that's
because
that's the main thing.
yeah, I think it's a really good point because on one hand, we know that they're very capable in melee, meaning that you can be aggressive with them if you have to or if you want to, but at the same time, the durability and survivability allows them to play a really good defensive game. Like playing as ghosts, if you manage to establish the positioning on the board, you don't really have to launch your rockets into your opponent. By rockets, I mean operatives, and allow them to potentially outplay you with multiple activations, killing those goats one by one. You can often play on defensive counterplay game because you know that your opponent will find it really hard to actually push into your models because they live twice.
Yeah, exactly that. All right, let's press on to the next team. What team do you want to cover next?
Yeah, I think I'd like to cover the team that I managed to purchase after 2.5 years into the game, and I managed to glue them all together, all 19 of them, and undercode them, and then they got nerfed. I'm talking about Bad Guard. So yeah, I'm really pleased to look at my veteran guardsmen waiting for probably next edition until I paint
They've had
them.
a fall from grace, yeah. They've had a fall from
Yeah,
grace.
but I'd say it was long coming, so I
Yeah,
can only blame myself. And I would put them in maybe B plus for now, because I think they're still strong. I think they still have plenty of tools, and we can't underestimate 14 bodies with 12 activations, with in-depth atonement. Yes, they're minus once per game. Yes, the sniper spotter combo doesn't work as it used to, but they still have plenty of AP weapons, plenty of activations, and they should play the mission really well. So I think this is where they should sit, and I'm glad that you put them lower than Blooded, because I
yeah,
think this is where they should be right now.
yeah. So I think they sit at the sort of the bottom of B plus because I think you touched on all of it there, right? I think they still have a lot of good tools. They're still 14 bodies. They still have Into the Breach. The demo mine going to once a game, I think, was actually on most top tables like not a change because like if a demo mine's getting 2 mines off, like it's gone
Yeah,
terribly.
that GG.
Like,
That's
like
yeah, like if someone like blasts you more than once with that mine, I mean, I would admire a player who takes more than one mine to the face and still manages to win against bad
yeah, yeah,
guys,
yeah,
despite all of the other tools that they have. So yeah, so I'd
yeah,
say it's a well thought nerve, long time coming, and it definitely puts them down a bit because like before the nerf, I would say they were uh, amongst the very top and the very best teams in the game.
yeah.
And
Agreed.
before the balance patch, I would say definitely an S tier, maybe not top of the S tier, but definitely S tier. These days, I'd say B plus. Still a very good team. Still, when piloted by a good player, they play mission very well. It's just that they may not find it as easy to face the top of the field these days as they used to.
Yeah, concur. And yeah, I think they're, the teams that they are now used to be really good against things like Hearthkyn actually. Now the fact that it shuts down into the breach is just a math. Like, it just completely
Oh
changes how
yeah.
that game plays. Like,
Like,
loot for Hearthkyn against them originally is like a 4-2 start, and now it's like, oh hey, like, I don't know, man, like, you might struggle to get 3 points on loot as Vetguard, which is mental. That's absolutely mental from a change in pace. So
well, you can still take the +1 movement across the team, right? So on certain maps,
true,
you'll still
yeah,
be
true.
able to reach those mid-board objectives, but that means that you didn't take ceaseless on your guns, and may mean that you will not be as well positioned as you'd like to be. So there are certain downsides coming along with it, and yeah, and this should actually introduce an interesting dynamic into the game in this particular matchup, or like actually for Hearthkyn versus teams like Kommandos or like Vedguard, where you block the shush or into the breach turning point one, but you need to consider that as a Hearthkyn player that they may use that turning point two to
Yeah,
all of the sudden gain an advantage. You can't forget is like, okay, I did counter that turning point one, and all of a sudden, yes, I'm safe, because even Vedguard players, they can still do a turning point two. They just need to start in the drop zone. So yeah, but yeah, all things considered, I'd agree. It's going to be a much more demanding game from a Vedguard player, and yeah, another reason why they will be slightly lower on the tier list than they used to be.
yeah, agreed. I think a team that might sit comfortably in B tier, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I think they're going to sit above Warpcoven, but I actually think Hunter Clade are there at the moment.
Oh, we
But
have a first big disagreement,
okay,
a
interesting.
massive one.
Okay, so I think Hunter Clade are kind of middle of the pack. I think they've got some pretty good matchups in most areas, and arguably potentially into some of the top teams right now in the current meta. They're going to be pretty good. But I guess I don't know. I've not seen them perform too well recently. So why do you think that they should be hitting up a little bit higher than where they are right now?
So I think that, like, first things first, Hunter Clade. I see Hunter Clade as a team that's too fair in a way. They
Mm,
have massive bases, meaning that you cannot stack too many models in certain spots where you'd like them to be. They haven't got a grenade, which is a huge pain in the back if you run them, and they rely on the efficiency in both melee and shooting. They can do both quite well. However, they haven't got any tricks. They have like 11 activations, and the best trick you can do is they give +1 APL to your gunner, and then GA to the guy that removes obscurity and the gunner, and just shoot something with that. And that's the biggest trick, because like the GA2 with the leader and the Rush Stalkers turning point two is, at least from my perspective, is way too telegraphed. The reason
yeah,
why I think they should be slightly higher, slightly higher, I would even put them in A tier in the tier list, and I'm looking forward to hear feedback around that, is because I think they do quite well specifically into the teams that you see as the top of the meta.
yeah,
Maybe aside of Pathfinders, I think they do well into goats, because you can tell the goat player you're injured and you have no rerolls. Good luck killing me now. They do quite well into Kommandos these days, because they have very reliable shooting. You just take all infiltrators. You don't try to charge them and bash them into pieces. You shoot them and wait for them to charge you, and then finish them off with your 5-up lethal 5-up on the power weapon. And I think they do well into elites, and I think they still will do quite well into the new Nightmare Elite team joining the fray. And yeah, all things considered, for that reason, the fact that they do quite well into the teams in the top of the field, I think they should be higher up. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, I definitely see your reasoning. And I guess the only things that I've got really to counter is, I completely agree. So their one method or means of double killing really is the leader GA2 ability. I know they can give a third APL to either their leader or to, say, an infiltrator, and they can charge, fight, and shoot someone. But that doesn't really get you a double kill most of the time. So I think what I found whenever I played them was they lacked like a decisive move, if that made sense. Like if your opponent could see where your leader is. I had an impression
you wanted to say they lack that oomph.
That's it, right?
You just haven't got any play that will be like, okay, that's it. Now I did my thing, and now you can't win this game. No, they haven't got anything of that sort. All the while, the opponents might have such a thing against them. So yeah, I can see that. And frankly, even though I think they should sit higher up in a tier list, this is actually the team I've got the worst win rate at tournaments with. so
and this is kind of like one of my points is that whenever I see people playing them, they never seem to really pop off. Like I'm not quite sure what it is. Like, I know that they've simplified their reliability mechanics now, so it is better. But I guess like they're an 11 model team. I know you can drop to 10 if you want to run more Rust.
You probably go 7-4 into hordes and mid ranges, and 5-5 into elites.
Yeah, I think that's the way to run them. But I just found that they don't do too well. I mean, like, and I guess the example would be, if you're against an experienced player and you're running against like Blooded or anything like that, the chance of you getting double kills with those Rust Stalkers, which is what you need to achieve, is really difficult when you're probably having to take terrain modification into effect, because sure, you can ignore the first barricade, but you're not ignoring the barricade that they're using. And like on ITD, I found that they can be quite easily screened out. And that sort of stuff. But I'll accept that they are far better into the top of the meta. So I think we push them up. Do you think that they sit in?
Let's maybe B+ for now.
B+, above Vetguard, below Blooded.
Let's agree on that. I think this. I would probably risk putting them a bit high, but maybe for the reason that if I expect to win, or if I want to win an event, and let's say it's 4 rounds, then I have to assume that round 4 I'm playing against one of the Juggernauts, running one of the Juggernaut teams, and one of those teams will be a team like Goats, like Kommandos, and this is where I want to be. I have my Hunter Clade, and all of a sudden I do have a good matchup in my round 4. However, I can see that you still have to w+ the first 3 rounds to get there.
You have to get there, right? You have to get there.
So that might be an issue, but yeah. So let's put them B+ and see where they end up when we get to the very end of the tier list, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah. All right. What's the next team that you want to cover off? That brings us in this episode. Hopefully you found something new or useful while listening. If you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated, and share this with your friends so they can benefit as well. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, make sure to hit subscribe and select the bell icon so you get notifications as soon as the next episode drops. It really is the best way to help a small channel like ours. If you can't wait and you do want early access, you can join the Patreon, where you get exclusive access to all of our content ahead of time, as well as exclusive videos, access to the Discord, and tournament rewards. If you are an existing patron, let me take this moment once again to say a massive thank you for your support. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so drop a comment below and we'll get right to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host Ryan, this has been Turning Point Tactics, and we'll see you next time.